Good afternoon. This is Kathleen Drew, Chair of the Washington State Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, and I'm calling our monthly meeting for September 21st, 2021 to order. Ms. Bumpus, will you call the roll?
Yes. Department of Commerce.
Excused.
Department of Ecology.
Rob Dengel, present.
Fish and Wildlife.
Mike Livingston, present.
Department of Natural Resources.
Lenny Young, present.
And Utilities and Transportation Commission.
Excused.
Okay. Department of Transportation.
Bill Sorial, present.
Department of Agriculture. Benton County. Assistant Attorney General John Thompson.
Present.
Judge Sullivan. Judge Torum. Amy Hofkemeyer is excused for council staff. Amy Moon.
Amy Moon, present.
Kyle Overton.
Kyle Overton here.
Joe Wood.
Joe Wood, present.
Sean Chisholm.
Sean Chisholm, present.
Patty Betts.
Patty Betts, present.
Stu Henderson. Stephen Posner. Joan Owens.
Present.
Andrea Grantham.
Present.
Okay, for our operational updates for our facilities, Kittitas Valley.
Not here.
Wild Horse Wind Power Project.
Jennifer Galbraith, present.
For Grays Harbor.
Not present.
Chair Drew, this is Chris Sharon. I am present. I made
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Chehalis Generation Facility.
This is Mark Miller for the Pacific Coast Chehalis facility.
Thank you. Columbia Generating Station.
Maria Ramos and Marshall Schmidt, present.
And Columbia Solar.
Owen Hurd, present.
All right. Thank you. And Council for the Environment.
Bill Sherman and Megan Salome from the Environmental Protection Division of the AG's office, present.
Thank you. Chair Drew, and we have Chair Drew present as well.
Yes.
So completes the roll call.
Ms. Bumpus, I believe then we have a quorum for the regular council and a quorum for the Goose Prairie Council. But unless we have either Mr. Brost or Mr. Sanderson, we do not have a quorum for Horse Heaven, but we also do not have any actions planned.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's now move on to the proposed agenda. You have in your packets and see on the screen the proposed revised agenda for our meeting today. Is there a motion to adopt the revised agenda?
Rob Dengel, motion to adopt the agenda.
Second?
Lenny Young, second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The agenda is adopted. Moving on to the monthly excuse me, the meeting minutes, which we have 3 before us today. August was a busy month. So first, let's take up the August 6th, 2021 special meeting minutes for approval. The draft minutes are in front of you and were in your packets. Is there a motion to approve the August 6th? You're on August 17th there. Moving back to the August 6th. Thank you. Special meeting for the August 6th meeting.
This is Mike Livingston. I move to approve those minutes as presented.
Thank you. Are there any edits or changes or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
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 All those opposed? Minutes for August 6th special meeting are approved. Moving on to the August 17th, 2021 monthly meeting minutes. You have them before you as drafted. Is there a motion to approve the August 17th monthly meeting minutes?
Lenny Young, I move to approve the August 17th meeting minutes.
Thank you. Are there any edits or changes or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the August 17th monthly meeting minutes say aye.
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 All those opposed? The meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to the August 17th public informational meeting minutes. And this was for the Columbia Solar Amendment. There we are, public informational meeting. The draft minutes are in front of you and in your packets. Is there a motion to approve the Columbia Solar Public Informational Meeting minutes?
Lenny Young, I move to approve the Columbia Solar Public Informational Meeting, August 17, 2021 minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mike Livingston will second.
Thank you. I have one change in this meeting minutes on page 22, line 4, in the portion that's actually was the EFSEC informational presentation. There, it says on line 4, Forest Haven instead of Horse Heaven as the map of current facilities and projects under review. And so I would like to amend the minutes so it reads Horse Heaven instead of Forest Haven. With that, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved as amended. Okay, now we will move on to our operational updates, starting with Kittitas Valley Wind Project. Mr. Overton.
Yes, thank you. This is Kyle Overton, the EFSEC site specialist for the Kittitas Valley project. For the month of August, there were no non-routine items to report.
Thank you. Moving on to the Wild Horse Wind Facility, Ms. Galbraith.
Yes, thank you, Chair Drew, council members and staff. This is Jennifer Galbraith with Puget Sound Energy reporting for the Wild Horse Wind Project. For the month of August, I only have one non-routine update. In accordance with the site certification agreement, the Operations Spill Prevention Control and Countermeasures Plan was updated and submitted to EFSEC staff on August 17th. There was only a few minor administrative changes. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Chehalis Generation Facility. Mr. Miller.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, EFSEC, Council, and staff. This is Mark Miller, the plant manager representing the Pacificor Chehalis Generation Facility. I have one non-routine note that was submitted during the month of August. As mentioned in the July and August reports, the Chehalis plant had been restricted on water purchases from the city of Chehalis due to low flow of the Chehalis River as measured at the USGS Grand Mound metering station. That restriction began on July 8, 2021. And just as a note, on September 14th, 2021, during a special meeting, the council approved Pacificor's request to buy water from the city of Chehalis with a commitment to fund certain conservation measures. Following receipt of the approved resolution, the Chehalis facility did begin taking water during the low flow period on September 15th. And on good fortune, it rained the next day. And the river flows returned to above 165 cubic feet per second on September 19th at 9 a.m. So we appreciate the council's attention and support, and we will meet the requirements of Resolution 350 as approved by the council. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions from council members? Thank you, Mr. Miller. The Title V air operating permit then, Mr. Overton.
Yes, thank you again. This is Kyle Overton, the site specialist for the Chehalis facility. EFSEC staff have provided a draft Title V air operating permit, or AOP, and associated basis statement for the council's review and consideration. This permit is required of the facility per WACS 463-78 and 173-401 and Title V of the Federal Clean Air Act. This permit is required to be renewed every 5 years and was initially issued to the facility in 2006. On December 23rd, 2020, EFSEC received an application from the facility to renew their AOP, and their application was deemed complete on January 28th, 2021. EFSEC Southwest Clean Air Agency, or SWCA contractor, developed the draft permit and basis statement in conjunction with EFSEC and facility staff. No substantial changes or changes to emissions limits are being proposed in this permit renewal. At this stage, the EFSEC process, EFSEC staff are requesting the council to authorize the release of the permit documents for a 30-day public comment period and a 45-day EPA comment period, which are required per regulation. The public comment period would run from September 22nd through October 22nd, and the EPA comment period would start the same day and conclude on November 6th. If the council chooses, they may conditionally approve these documents pending the results of these comment periods. And if no substantial comments are received, EFSEC would then issue the permit at the conclusion of the comment periods. But if any substantial comments were received, EFSEC staff would provide the comments to the council for their consideration and determination for next steps. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from the council members for Mr. Overton? I think we're familiar with the air permits and the, if you will, preliminarily determining approval and then allowing the public comment period to take place. And if there are no substantial comments, then the permits will be approved. That's a process we've used in the past. For this specific permit, are there any questions about that? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion for the council to make a preliminary determination to approve the draft Title V air operating permit for Chehalis Generating Facility, which will allow EFSEC staff to begin the public comment period on the draft permit documents?
Rob Dingle. A motion to approve the preliminary Title V air permit operating permit for the Chehalis Generation Facility, for the purposes of going out to comment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mike Livingston will second.
Thank you. Is there discussion about this?
This is Rob.
Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, this is
Mr.
Rob Dingle. I'll just mention that these are pretty routine permit updates, and my understanding, talking to the engineer who helped put this together, is that there have been no significant changes at the facility between these two permit periods.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the preliminary determination on the air operating permit and allowing the staff to move forward with the public comments, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is adopted. Thank you. We will move on to the Grays Harbor Energy Center. Mr. Sharon.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members, and EFSEC staff. This is Chris Sharon, plant manager from Grays Harbor Energy Center. For the month of August, I have no non-routine items to report. I will mention, though, that I sent in a revision to what you probably have in front of you. I did add that we completed our relative accuracy test audit, or RATA, August 10th through 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Sharon. The marvelous Ms. Owens caught that on the fly, and it's in front of you on the screen, although it wasn't in the packets.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Columbia Generating Station, Ms. Ramos.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members, and staff. This is Mary Ramos reporting for Energy Northwest. So for the month of August, I have one non-routine update to report for Columbia Generating Station. On August 22nd, Columbia Generating Station determined that no more than approximately 8 gallons of silicon oil was inadvertently released into a plant service water system, and this was due to a failed heat exchanger on a plant-installed air compressor. The plant service water system provides cooling to non-radioactive equipment in the plant and returns to the circulating water basin, which contains at a minimum of 300,000 gallons of water. Circulating water basin serves as the water source for non-contact cooling water, plant service water, and fire protection water. At the time of the release, the circulating water system was estimated to contain approximately 6.5 million gallons. The circulating water basin is connected to the Columbia River via blowdown line. Although not confirmed, it is suspected that an unknown quantity of silicon oil may have been released into the Columbia River. The release was stopped when the air compressor was removed from service. Energy Northwest conducted a visual inspection of the circulating water basin and did not identify any oil sheen or film. Energy Northwest determined that the potential oil release did not pose a threat to health or the environment. However, since there could have been a discharge of an unknown quantity of silicon oil into the Columbia River, Energy Northwest immediately notified the U.S. Coast Guard National Response Center and the Division of Emergency Management in accordance with Revised Code of Washington 90.56.280. In addition, Energy Northwest provided a courtesy notification to our EFSEC siting specialist, Ms. Amy Moon. Per EFSEC's request, Energy Northwest also submitted a written report, and this was in accordance with the Columbia Generating Station National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, specifically section Sigma 3 Echo Charlie of our permit. This report is often referred to as the 5-day report, and the report was submitted to EFSEC and Ecology on September 14th via email and Ecology's web portal. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from council members?
Yeah, this is Lenny Young, DNR. Is any aspect of this still open? Is there any follow-up that's underway or any regulatory or oversight actions that are still pending? To what extent is this concluded or still ongoing?
So the spill has, or the potential source of the leak has been stopped when we placed that equipment out of service. And then as far as actions for Energy Northwest, after that written 5-day report was submitted, we're now waiting for input from EFSEC and Ecology. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks. So this will be an issue we'll hear conclusions about in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do not have any updates for August for WNP 1 and 4.
Okay, thank you. Our next item on the agenda, is the Desert Claim Wind Power Project. Ms. Moon. Ms. Moon, Desert Claim Wind Power Project.
Oh, gosh, Chair Drew, I'm so sorry. I read it to you with my mic muted.
Go ahead. Let's try again.
Now I need to open it again. Okay, good afternoon, Council Chair Drew and council members. For the record, this is Amy Moon providing an update on the Desert Claim project. Currently, there are no updates to the project, but we continue to work with Desert Claim.
Thank you. And next for our update, Horse Heaven Wind Project, Ms. Moon.
Again, good afternoon, Council Chair Drew and council members. For the record, this is Amy Moon providing an update on the Horse Heaven Wind Project. EFSEC wants to provide you, the council, with the status on the draft environmental impact statement, or the DEIS. We want to provide an update on that preparation effort. As you know, following the applicant's withdrawal of their request for the expedited processing of the application on March 29th, 2021, a determination of significance scoping notice was issued on May 11th. The scoping notice announced a 30-day public comment period, which ended on June 10th of 2021. EFSEC staff and their consultant worked on tracking and reviewing the comments, which included 361 public comments. In addition, EFSEC received approximately 17 comment letters from agencies and tribes. During that same time frame, EFSEC's consultant was also preparing several data requests for the applicant. The 134 data requests covered a wide number of topical areas, including habitat, wildlife, vegetation, air, noise, recreation, water supply, land and shoreline use, cultural and historic, aesthetics, earth, surface water and wetlands, energy and natural resources, light and glare, environmental health, heat dissipation, transportation, stormwater, and finally, wastewater. These requests were provided to the applicant in 3 packages between May 27th and July 22nd of 2021. The applicant subsequently provided responses beginning July 1st, and the most recent response was received yesterday on September 20th. The applicant is still preparing a few remaining responses associated with cultural resources and visual simulations, which falls into aesthetics. Between April 4th, 2021 and now, EFSEC has also been working with our consultant to define the parameters for writing the draft EIS. Those parameters that we're working on now defining are the final scope of elements of the environment that will be examined in the draft EIS, the alternatives that will be examined, how impacts will be analyzed using an impact rating system, identification of reasonably foreseeable projects for the cumulative effects analysis, the overall organization of the draft EIS, the draft EIS document review periods, and an overall timeline. Most of these decisions are interconnected to some degree or another. For example, the scope of the elements of the environment and determination of alternatives could not be made until public scoping was completed and all comments were considered. As indicated, the timeline is affected by all these preliminary pieces that are important steps to completing the SEPA process. EFSEC staff continue to coordinate with the applicant on responses to data requests and clarifications regarding the application for site certification. This coordination and completion of these interim tasks are important in producing an informative DEIS for the council and the public. In the meantime, we are working to identify the time frame of major milestones so we can keep the council and applicant apprised of these as work progresses. Does the council have any questions?
Are there questions from council members?
Chair Drew, this is Mike Livingston. I'm curious, so as the scoping comments and the responses from the applicant are put together, when would you anticipate us as council members being able to view some of these draft documents, or are they available today and I just haven't seen them yet?
So I guess I'm misunderstanding what draft documents do you mean the full draft EIS, or do you mean comments that public and agencies?
Yeah, the scoping comments that came in from the public, as well as the responses from the applicant.
So the responses we have from the applicant are from data requests. So we asked them for additional information, and those are posted on the public EFSEC website. And then comments are also posted on that public website. I don't know that they have been posted to a council SharePoint site for review, but they are on the public Horse Heaven website.
Okay, that's what I was asking for, Amy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there other questions from council members? Thank you, Ms. Moon, and it's a complex process with a lot of information work and gathering and going on, and I know that we will have more information yet at the next monthly meeting. So thank you for your report. Moving on to the Columbia Solar Project. First of all, let's have a facility update by Mr. Owen Hurd.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members, and EFSEC staff. This is Owen Hurd from Tuso Energy reporting on the Columbia Solar projects. Regarding construction status, Penstemon pile driving is complete. Puget Sound Energy's interconnection work and inverter installation is underway. Torque tubes are expected shortly, and then installation will begin immediately thereafter. In Camas, the majority of pile driving is complete. Inverters have been delivered and are currently being installed, as are the torque tubes. We've gotten a portion of them and are still expecting some. On Utica, pile driving is now underway. We're seeing a higher refusal rate than with the other sites, but that was to be expected. Module deliveries have recently been delayed due to port congestion, which affects all three projects, and we don't yet have a real clear view of how long that'll be, weeks, but it seems like it'll be 2 to 6 weeks. Environmental compliance, all the BMPs are in place. Golder and Northwest Code continue to do their routine inspections. The main issue we've had is with construction dust on Penstemon. between the combination of bare dirt, high winds, and water trucks being in short supply due to the wildfires. The dirt piles have been removed and placed back in the trances. We're looking at hydro seeding during construction, and then talking with the water district about using water on site to minimize dust. In terms of safety, daily safety tailgate meetings have continued, and we're continuing to work on the planting plans and seed mixes.
So, Mr. Hurd, in terms of the recent weather event, I know what kind of rain I got in Olympia, but has any of that helped the dust situation on site?
It has helped, yeah. It has gotten a little bit. It has helped for sure, but we're.
It's a long dry period.
Yeah, that's right. So we hope it keeps up, but it's hard to predict. So we're still looking into those other measures. Yeah.
Okay. Council members, do you have any questions for Mr. Hurd? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move on to the action item, potential action item, I will say. So before us are, as you remember, one of the meetings we had in August. There's somebody who needs to mute their phone, please, because I can hear you as background noise. So please make sure your phone is muted. Thank you. So for today, as I was saying, we heard the amendment application by Columbia Solar, and we have in the packet the site certification agreements, and I will now ask Mr. Kyle Overton to give us a report on the status.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Kyle Overton, the site specialist for the Columbia Solar Project. For the SCA amendment, just like a brief history here, on July 28th, 2021, EFSEC received a formal request for SCA amendment for the 5 Columbia solar sites from Tuso Energy, the current SCA holder, in accordance with WAC 463-60-020 and 100. This request was for the termination of the Taifa and Fumaria sites, SCAs, and the transfer of ownership of the Camas, Penstemon, and Utica SCAs to site-specific entities, which are named TE Camas, TE Penstemon, and TE Utica, respectively. Overall control of these 3 site-specific entities would then be transferred to Greenbacker Renewable Energy Corporation. As part of the review process for the request, WAC 463-60-030 calls for a public hearing session, and this meeting was held, as Chair Drew mentioned, on August 17th, 2021. No comments were received during this meeting. So when considering the request for amendment, WAC 463-66-040 requires the council to consider 4 items. Item 1 is the original intention of the SCA. Item 2 is applicable laws and rules. Item 3 is the public health and safety and welfare. And finally, item 4 is compliance with WAC 463-72. WAC 463-72 concerns site restoration. After reviewing the application materials, EFSEC staff believe that the requirements in WAC 463-66-040 have been met, and the council had been provided a draft order for consideration, which contains 1 conditional approval item. In order to meet the condition, that 4th condition item, and to maintain compliance with WAC 463-72, restoration funding must be secured from the new SCA owner, Greenbacker, prior to final approval of the SCA transfers. Due to the largely administrative nature of the requested SCA amendments, approval or denial can be made by the council action and is not required to go before the governor per WAC 463-66-070. And that's kind of where we are today. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Overton? So what we have before us then also, and council members have received a draft order. What we have to begin with here are 3 site certification agreements, and that's because in this project of the close but not adjacent sites, we have different site certifications for each one of the sites. But the amendment requests to amend those and to, I'm looking for it on my screen here, the resolution. Have council members had a chance to review the resolution, the draft order 880? I can have Mr. Thompson walk through it for us if you'd like. Mr. Thompson?
Yes, Chair Drew. So as Mr. Overton mentioned, essentially the order just goes through, there's 3 components of the request. The first is to terminate the Taifa and Fumaria project SCAs, and that's based on the information presented by the by TUSO Energy that basically it's become apparent that due to the high costs of paying for transmission facilities, that it's not practicable to construct those facilities. So they requested termination of those 2 SCAs. Then in order to facilitate the acquisition of the SCAs or control over the SCAs for the remaining 3 projects by Greenbacker Energy, the project SCAs need to be transferred from TUSO down to subsidiary companies. So that's the second request. And then the third request is to basically transfer control over those 3 SCAs, which would now be held by the 3 project companies, over to ownership of those entities by a subsidiary, a Greenbacker. And so that requires a third approval, which is the transfer of control over those SCAs as a result of a transfer of the companies themselves that hold them. So, and as Mr. Overton mentioned, the chief concern here is really because the projects themselves are not being changed. The holders of the certificate are still required to comply with the terms of how the projects are described and all of the various requirements that apply to them. So it's really just that the SCAs will be in different corporate hands, and the chief concern is just that there not be a lapse in the financial assurance that's provided to make sure that if the projects are abandoned or at the end of their useful life, that they will be, there will be money available to restore them if the certificate holder isn't able to do so. So that the order goes through that analysis, and as Mr. Overton said, as the one condition that the transfer not be approved until proof is provided by Greenbacker of their ability to provide, or their provision of financial assurance to replace the financial insurance that TUSO is currently providing through its bank. So,
and there will be continuity. So the proposal is for continuity. So TUSO holds on to that financial security until an appropriate instrument from Greenbacker, which has done this in other locations around the country, provides that financial security, and then we will finally approve the transfer. So the only reason we have that mechanism is to make sure there isn't a lapse. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Right. So there's no moment at which there's no financial insurance in place. So if once the evidence of that financial assurance is received, then at a later council meeting, the council can adopt a resolution indicating that final approval is granted.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Overton, have there been any public comments with any concerns about this transfer of ownership?
No, we haven't received any comments on this proposal.
And I know all of the council members who are here right now participated in the hearing and asked questions in the informational hearing. We had quite a robust conversation. What is your view at this point in time, council members, in terms of this amendment, which is administrative, but no doubt very important administrative in the terms of the transfer of the ownership? Are council members inclined to approve the resolution or want more time to review it?
This is Mike Livingston. I've read this enough, and the explanation from Mr. Thompson makes me comfortable with approval of the resolution as it's presented today.
This is Lenny Young. I concur.
Okay. So let's, then the motion I would suggest is to move that the council approve order number 880 regarding the Columbia Solar Project to, and I think once I read it, if somebody wants to say so moved, that would be sufficient. I move that, unless you want to change it, I would add, I move that the council approve order number 880 regarding the Columbia Solar Project to terminate the Taifa and Fumeria site certification agreements. So those are the two that can't continue. Approve the transfer of the Penstamin, Camas, and Urtica agreements from Tuso Energy LLC to separate project companies, and approve the transfer of control of the agreements to Greenbacker Renewable Energy Company.
This is Mike Livingston. I will so move to approve what you just repeated or just stated, Council Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Rob Dangle,
second.
Okay, Rob Dangle, second. Are there further comments or discussion? I'm happy to see this partnership relationship between Tuso and Greenbacker. I think it bodes well for the financial security and the future of this solar facility. So I appreciate all the work that's been put in to make this become a reality. So all those in favor of this resolution, you know, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask for the roll call because this is a resolution on an amendment, an SCA amendment order. So Ms. Bumpus, will you call the roll?
Yes, Chair Drew.
Yes.
Okay, calling roll. Chair Drew?
Aye.
Commerce is excused. Ecology?
Rob Dangle, aye.
Department of Fish and Wildlife?
Mike Livingston, aye.
Department of Natural Resources?
Lenny Young, aye.
And the member for the Utilities and Transportation Commission is excused.
Yes.
Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you all for your work on this. And as I said, the excellent questions and discussion we had in the public informational meeting. Our next item on the agenda is Goose Prairie Solar Project. For project update, Mr. Overton, this is your day.
Yes, thank you. This is my day, and I think this is my last one. So, this is Kyle Overton, the site specialist for the Goose Prairie project. So, for the biggest thing to update for this month is about the public comment period currently going on. And some background on that. On August 6, 2021, the EFSEC Council approved Order 879 granting expedited processing for the Goose Prairie application for site certification. This order required EFSEC staff to develop a means to receive information akin to what Yakima County would receive during a conditional use hearing as to site-specific conditions and criteria. To that end, a public comment period has started on September 13th and will run through September 27th. And then on September 27th, a public comment meeting will be held at 5 p.m. to provide additional opportunity to receive comment from the public on conditional use criteria for the project. As of today, no comments have been received. And then I believe the EFSEC manager will have some info on a project extension request, a review extension request that we received. But for that public comment info, is there any questions?
Are there any questions about the public comment period and meeting we have coming up next Monday evening? Okay, then Ms. Bumpus on the project extension.
Thank you. For the record, this is Sonia Bumpus. Good afternoon, Chair Drew and council members. On September 17th, 2021, EFSEC received a request from One Energy Renewables, a written request from One Energy Renewables, requesting an extension on the timeline for the decision on the Goose Prairie Solar Project that is under review before the council. The letter requests an extension to October 31st, 2021. EFSEC staff discussed this with the applicant and internally, and believe this is important to ensure that EFSEC has enough time to complete our review process, which includes the public comment period and public comment meeting that Mr. Overton has already discussed. And with that, we'd like to ask the council to approve this request for extension to October 31, 2021.
In that time period between, so it's a short extension, just to the end of next month, to extend the timeline to transmit a recommendation to the governor. Will the staff be prepared to bring forward a draft recommendation on this project to the council after the conclusion of the public comment period and before our October meeting?
That is what we plan to do, Chair Drew, is to bring a staff recommendation for the council at the October council meeting, where the council can discuss all of the information up to this point, as well as ask questions of the staff and applicant with respect to the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions from council members? Okay, then let's move to maybe the simplest motion today, to approve One Energy Renewables request to extend the timeline for EFSEC to transmit a recommendation to the governor for the Goose Prairie Solar Project until October 31st, 2021. Is there a motion?
This is Lenny.
Thank you.
This is Lenny Young. I move that the council approves EFSEC or One Energy's request for an extension of the timeline for EFSEC to transmit a recommendation to the governor for the Goose Prairie Solar Project to October 31, 2021.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Rob Engel, second.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion is adopted. Thank you, everybody, all the council members. There were a few items. I appreciate your work on all of that. I'm going to look back at my agenda. This is the end of our agenda. I do want to do one item for the good of the order, and that is to introduce a new EFSEC staff member. Her name is Andrea Grantham, and she's has joined us as an administrative assistant and has lived in the state, both Eastern and Western Washington, and we're happy to have her on our staff. So, Andrea, would you just like to say hello to the council?
Yeah, hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. So she's a new member of our staff, and I know that Joan is very happy to have her on board to support on the administrative side as well, as we all are. So with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.